Have you been wanting to upgrade to Debian 13 testing now that RC has dropped? Stick around. I'll show you exactly how to do that. And stay tuned to the end of the video. I'll show you exactly where to get the ISO from. In this video, what we're going to do is a clean install. It's not going to be an upgrade like the last one. We're going to do a freshly formatted, clean install of Debian 13. Let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, you can tell the very top line there, this is Debian GNU Linux Trixie DIRC2. This was released on July 2nd, so at the time of recording it was just 3 days ago. I'm going to go ahead and go through this installer. It uses the same DI installer, which is the same installer it's used forever. So I will definitely pause the video throughout a lot of this until we get to the desktop, and then we can look around from there, and then I'll show you where to get this. So anyway, we're going to do English, United States, because that's where I live. All it's doing now is it's detecting everything, getting it up on the network and stuff like that, so we can go ahead and start the installation process. So bear with us for just a second here, and we'll get to the meat and taters. All right, this is where we choose our host name, domain name. We want this to the default behavior to be like pretty much every other Linux distribution, which to do that, you just leave the root password blank. Linux Tech Life, so we put our name in there. Then we pick a username, password, time zone, okay, this just detected that I had a previous installation of an operating system in BIOS mode instead of UEFI. If you get this and you are replacing that operating system with Debian, you can go ahead and safely say yes and ignore this. If you're trying to dual boot, that's going to be outside the scope of this video. We're going to choose yes here. Okay. Also, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and wipe out the entire drive. We're going to let Debian use the entire thing. It's going to chop it up itself. We're not going to try to do anything manual or LVM or anything like that in this video. We're going to just keep it as simple as possible. So we choose the second option and hit enter. And we choose the drive we want to use, which is going to be this 256 gig Micron. It does have two drives in it, but we're just going to use this one for right now. And we're going to put everything all in one partition. It's the simplest way to go. Okay, we are finished. Writer changes the disk. And now I'm going to pause the video. Okay, looks like we got some more questions answered. I want my archive to come from the United States because that's where I live. Just going to choose the default. I don't need a proxy. If you don't know what a proxy is, you don't need one either. Going to reload its repository files. And I'm going to pause the video again for a second. Okay, this screen here is basically asking if you want to participate in the package survey. This is a form of telemetry. It is opt-in, which means by default it is no. As you can tell, the red box is around no. So if you hit enter here, you are automatically opted out, or shall I say not opted in. If you choose to share your package usage, that's fine. You just move over and choose yes and hit enter. It also gives you a command, depackage reconfigure popularity -contest if you change your mind. We're going to choose no. All right, so on this screen here, and this is one of the differences between a Type 1 I always try to say hypervisor, I don't know why. The difference between a Type 1 Linux distribution and a Type 2 Linux distribution, as I have defined it previously in my other videos, is that a Type 1 is more user-friendly. It's where most people start. It is install it and forget it. It is, if you install it, it does most of the decision-making for you, and it leaves you on a nice, clean desktop. One of the differences between a Type 1 and a Type 2 is the amount of flexibility that you have. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. It gives you all kinds of flexibility. However, on the other edge of that sword, you have to know what you're wanting to pick. And that's where a lot of complication comes in. So for a Type 2, it's going to ask you more complicated questions because it's giving you more freedom. So on here, though, this also means that instead of having several different spins, like with Fedora, if you go to getfedora.org, you'll see that there are two official distributions. You have the workstation or the GNOME desktop, and then you have the KDE edition. Those are both officially supported versions of Fedora, but also you can go into the spins library and you can download ISOs that are specifically targeted other desktop operating system or desktop environments, such as like say i3 or XFCE or something like that. With Type 2, generally what you get is you get a single very small ISO. It's called a net installer. It contains just enough programming to download Linux from the internet and give you your choices here. And that's what you're looking at here. Is I don't have to go get a different ISO file to choose between GNOME and XFCE or Cinnamon or KDE or anything like that. I can do it all from the exact same ISO file, which I'm going to choose KDE. I don't have a problem with any of the other desktop environments. It's just this is my favorite, so we're going to choose that. And then we'll go ahead and hit continue. So while this is downloading the 1,998 packages, I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, so now that that's done scrolling across, we're just going to go ahead and hit continue and reboot, and we will let that go. I'll pause it one more time. Okay, so on the screen here, I'm just going to hit the up and down arrow to stop the timer. Otherwise, it would just boot to whatever was default after about 5 seconds. So, yeah, we got a new splash screen. It's got a new theme on it. Still the same thing, though. You get Debian, or you can choose advanced options, UEFI, firmware settings, etc. That's nothing new. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Debian, and we're going to go ahead and boot into Debian Trixie. This is actually going to be a kind of a major thing, and I will do another video once it actually releases, and we'll go over all the new things that came in. In this video, we're just going to highlight some of the stuff that is to become. For example, if you notice in the lower left-hand corner, we have Plasma, but we also have it on Wayland. So Wayland is already first. It's already by default. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and sign in. And we notice something different. That something different is called KDE Plasma 6. KDE Plasma 6 has finally made it to Debian in Debian 13 Trixie. It's been in testing. It's been in SID for quite some time, but it's finally making it to the stable desktop edition. You can go through here and read these screens here. It just self-promotion about KDE. Well, it's all true, but you can just read that for yourself if you want. If we go in here and go down to about the system, we see there's Debian 13 software is KDE Plasma version 6.3.5, and we are doing that over kernel 6.12.33, which is a huge upgrade of the last version, Debian 12, which is Bookworm. It is the current stable, but not for long. It is on 6.1, and it's old enough. It's new enough to function, but it's old enough to not have newer drivers for newer hardware, such as the newer Intel chipsets. Like if I had, I don't have it in here now, but if I had a my Arc A770, which is an Archmage platform, it does not have the new drivers. I'd have to install the backport kernel or do some weird wizardry with the driver source. And if you go and look through my library, you'll see I actually have a video on how to install Debian Stable plus backports. And that is exactly why. It's because I was using that video card at that time. I'm not in here because this is a different machine. This has got a graphics chip, or the graphics is built into the CPU kind of thing. It's integrated graphics. My main machine is where I had the Archmage. Okay, so in here, some things have changed around a little bit. Like the stuff is now different. On here, what you want to do is you want to make sure this says selects item. And it is by default. It used to default to opens, which means when you clicked on something, it opened it, which is kind of irritating. But if you click on it now, it just selects it. Screen edges have been moved over here to mouse and touchpad, where you can change where you want what you want your edges to do. I'll show you an example of that. If you point up here to the top corner, it shows you your desktops, which is what is the default. You can turn it off by choosing no action and clicking apply. Now it won't do it. You can actually change that over to a different corner if you want, like this right here. It might be more logical to put it in the center or center at the bottom. It actually probably would make more sense to put it here. So now when you go down here to the middle, it'll do that. Or what you can do is, instead of doing that, you can do show KRunner, apply that. And KRunner is actually just a system search tool there, and then you can search for whatever you want. And it will show you its results right there for you. You've probably seen KRunner in other operating systems, or something very similar to KRunner in other desktop environments. But let's move to there. Everything else is pretty much in the same place, if I recall. Colors and themes has changed around a little bit. This is where you find your login screen thing. Currently, there is no way to change this wallpaper in this window. I'm not sure if they're actually going to put that in there or not. With KDE Plasma 5, the previous version, there was 3 of these buttons in here, and the middle one would allow you to change the background image on that. Let's see here. Power management is here. Oh, screen locking has been broke out from, I forget where I was at. But anyway, it's been broke out, and it's its own item here under security and privacy. Usually what I do is I just turn this off, because I don't want my computer going to sleep. When I'm done using my computer, I will tell it to go to sleep, or turn my monitor off, or whatever. Basically, I'm just turning that type of automation off because I don't want it there. Also, in colors and themes, you have the ability to change what the theming itself looks like. Colors, which is the title bar, but also the highlighted text, and whether you want light mode or dark mode or whatever you want. You can turn night light on. Choose what the applications look like. Like Breeze would be more of a flat Metro kind of look. This is the old Windows look. You can also do something between the two. Also, you can always configure the toolbars, and in most cases, you can download the file. You can download new themes and install from files, so you can create your own. Your buddies can create one. You can share back and forth. You don't have to share with the rest of the world if you don't want to. Same thing with Windows decorations, icons, cursors, sound system. I turn this off. I hate chatty computers. Splash screen. This is when it's booting up, and when it covers all the text that's scrolling in the background. Cursors, we'll show you how to install one from the repository, where you can download from file. You can go to the internet and download a cursor set yourself. Actually, let me do this real quick. We want console is what we're looking for. And I want to sudo apt update. It's always the first thing you do as soon as you install Linux is you do an update and then an upgrade. What I want to do here is I want to sudo, I forgot exactly what package that is, so let's do an apt search for oxygen is what I'm looking for. But I want to narrow that search down to theme. Oxygen icon, plasma theme oxygen. I'm not seeing exactly what I'm looking for here, but so let's change this to cursor. There it is, oxygen cursors, all one word. So we want to sudo apt install oxygen cursors. All right, so now that that's installed, we're going to navigate away from that and back to it. And now we have all of these in here. And I usually choose the yellow one because it tends to contrast very well with dark wallpapers and allows me to see my cursor. You can change the size, especially if you're getting older like me. You can change the size, change, whatever else you want to do. But that is that. Text and fonts, you can configure that the way you want. So over 5, they've just moved things around. They haven't really added a ton of extra stuff in here. But this is all from Plasma. It's not from Debian itself. Okay. So also with Debian, we have a new file format. Let me open this up. And what we're going to do here is we're going to bounce over to Google real quick. And in here we will Deb822, I think is what it's called. Stay signed out. I hate it when you don't let me do anything until after I answer your stupid question. We're looking for Deb822, I think is the format we're looking for. Yeah, okay. So basically what it is it is restructured what the Debian apt packages look like here. Or not the packages, but the repo files. Again, we're looking for console. Move this over here, and we're going to drag that over. Nope, the whole thing. Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm going to sudo nano etc apt sources.list. Okay, so this is the old way. This is from 12 and before, and it's a single line entry. Let me clean up these comments so we can see them a little better. There we go. Okay, so it's all on a single line, and with this new Trixie 13, they changed this around a little bit to where it's not sources.list anymore. They're not going to have a file in etc apt and call it sources.list. Apt uses what's known as drop-ins, and that's coming in another video on what drop-ins are and how to use them. But apt is going to start taking full advantage of the fact that it's drop-ins, and it's going to move this sources.list file into a sources.list.d directory, and it's going to have its own .sources file. So the file system, or the file name, is also changing, which is what it's suggesting here. It's replacing the old one-line style. It uses sources files instead of list files. So if we look at these, it'll have an example in here. This is what the older one looks like. And the newer one, since we get to it, is going to look more like this. So you can enable and disable. The type is going to be deb source. If you notice, it's got the same information in it. Deb and deb source. That's your type. Your URIs, which is here, and it is here. So it has the same information. It's just been reformatted. This is going to be your suites, also known as your distribution. And then which components you want, which repos you want, main, non-free, whatever. So it has the same information, but it also reformats it where it's a bit easier to read. This can break some scripts. that you have. So if you have older scripts that work on older Debian versions, you're going to have to change those to work under the new 822 format. And in here you also have like security key rings and stuff like that that can also be added to here, as well as architectures and things like that. So it's actually a good thing that this is actually going to happen, or it has happened. But it's brand new for 13. In 12, they backported it to where you can use either the older format or you can use the newer format. And with 13, they included a little utility that will allow you to upgrade, or should I say reformat, the older style into the newer style. It'll do that for you. Like if you were to add, let's go ahead and save these changes here. Okay, and just for clarity, let's go ahead and cd to etc apt. All right, and when we do an ls on that, we have our key rings that are stored in this directory. We also have apt configuration preferences. These anything that ends in a .d, the directories that end in a .d, means that it supports what's known as drop-ins. Historically, this sources.list is your main repo file. Well, they are moving it to the sources.list.d directory. Let's go ahead and change to that. Clear the screen and do an ls there. Currently it is empty. What we can do is we can run that command to update this. Where did it go? I forget the exact wording on it. Let's do sudo, what is it, update sources, I think. To deb 822. There's a command that you can do. I can't think of it off the top of my head, because it'll convert, but it's not those. Convert to deb. Right. So it's giving me the example. There it is right there. Apt modernize sources. That's what I was looking for. My apologies. So what we can do here is go ahead and clear that out. Sudo apt modernize. And when you start typing and you hit tab, it'll complete it for you. And it will change it over for you already. So it moved. It literally tells you what it is. Modernized apt sources.list, and it created apt sources.list.d to Debian sources. So if we clear that again, and then we do an ls, and then we can nano that real quick. I'm not going to sudo because I'm not changing it. You can see how it converted it, modernized it. And if you were to go and download, say, let's say you prefer Chrome, you go into google.com/Chrome and you download the deb file and you install it like you normally do. It will create an older version of their sources, and you can run that command again after you do that, and it will convert that Chrome file to the new deb.822. So that's a handy little thing to remember there, especially if you're migrating over from 12 to 13. And it also enhances security by adding a signed by field in here. Let me bring that back up again. As you can see down here, this very bottom one here, it's signed by, and it gives you the path of the GPG key that is associated with that particular entry. Now, in my experience, I've never had to manually change that. If I converted, like say the previous example of converting Chrome from the older style to the newer style, that script handles all that for you. So I've never had to set this manually. You may run across that instance where you do have to do it manually. But for the most part, I have not seen that. Okay, let's go ahead and close out of here. So if we cd back one, now you notice there is no active sources.list anymore. You have this version here, which means it's edited. It's an old version. And then during the conversion, it actually made a backup. So these two files should be the exact same currently. But you can actually remove those. Actually, no, I'm going to do this. I want to show you something really cool. So if I do an rm-rf sources.list and tab a couple times, it gives me a couple different options here. I do not want to get rid of the sources.list.d directory. That will break the system. So I'm going to be a little bit more explicit here. .back. Okay. And when I do that, it's going to give this permission denied thing, which is understandable and is expected. But let's say I don't want to type that command out all over again. What I can do is I just hit a double bang. I'm sorry, I needed to prefix it first. So I want to do a sudo and then do the double bang. What that double bang is going to do is it's going to repeat the last command. That right there. So you don't have to type the whole thing out again as part of the shortcuts that I will eventually get around to creating a video showing all these shortcuts. And a lot of these are bashisms. They pertain directly to bash. They don't work in all shells. But anyway, I don't want to digress too far. So if we do an ls on that again, notice those source files are not there anymore, but I can still do a sudo apt update and it still pulls those files in because it's already converted in the drop-in. So the purpose of a drop-in, just briefly, I'll go into more detail, is it allows you to create your own file in here. My special stuff .sources, and it allows you to modify anything the way you want it modified. You can do this with other drop-in friendly programs such as SSH. You can create your own special configurations for that application without modifying the original file that comes with your distribution. Because if you modify the original file, the next time that file is overwritten by an update or an upgrade, it's going to wipe out all of your special settings. So you move those special settings to its own file and you put them in the .d directory. So it will, if anything that's drop-in friendly, will read all of the files in that drop-in directory as well as the original. Okay, so one thing you can do though is this will be read in alphabetical order, or it'll be read from top to bottom. So if you have to load one file before you load the other, you can just prefix it with 00 because 00 will be the first thing in the list. If you need it to be read last, you can do like 99 or something like that. But again, I'll go into greater detail about drop-ins in another video. For now, just suffice it to say that things have changed with Debian 13 in a good way and in a massive way. We're getting a lot of the newer stuff. But as before, Trixie is not going to change. It's going to keep the same features forever. That part's not changing. It's going to keep the kernel the way it is. Any newer stuff that comes down the pipe in the next year, year and a half, 2 years will be added to backports, or it will be added to the next stable version that comes out. That's been historically true. That's why people say Debian stable is old. Well, it is. It's from whenever it was released. It doesn't update unlike other operating systems or unlike other distributions like Fedora. Fedora will run in-place updates and upgrade you from KDE version 6 to 6.1 to 6.2, or whatever. It will update the kernels. It keeps it current. In fact, you really don't have to do anything for that to happen. It happens automatically. So anyway, I have been rambling long enough. All right, so I think this is going to about wrap up the video. This video wasn't actually intended to do half the stuff I just talked about, but there it is. It's been 30 minutes. So thank you for sticking around. And as promised in the beginning of the video, I will show you where you can download Debian Trixie. So what you want to do is you want to start with debian.org. And instead of clicking this big obnoxious download button, which is a story in of itself, I'm not going to go into it. I'll do a whole video on the history of this stupid button. So we're going to, underneath it, we're going to choose the link that says other downloads. And what we're looking for here is, you notice this says this page is installing 12.11. So it's not talking about testing. It's talking about the stable version, the current stable release. Okay, that's what happens when you click that button, is it gives you this, whatever this happens to be at the time you look at the page. What we're looking for is this ISO images for Debian testing. And when we go into here, we can see the release notes from the last two testing versions. Okay, so RC2, or Release Candidate 2, is the latest one. And over here is where you want to get your images from for whatever architecture, whether you want the net install, which is what I always use, the CD, the Blu-ray version, the DVD, whatever other format you want it in. Most people just want this AMD 64. So when you click that, it's going to push that ISO to you. And then you just write that ISO to the thumb drive like you normally do, whatever your favorite software suite to write that disk for. But you notice it's only 778 megabytes, so it's basically just enough coding to download and install Debian onto your system. Anyway, if you like these videos and you want to see more, make sure you click like and subscribe.